Hi, this is Sean with Tri-State Waterworks. This is irrigation wire. This is one of the most costly, or can be one of the most costly repairs in irrigation service work. And it's mostly because it's time consuming sometimes to find the issues. What we see is people have done things improperly. This wire is specifically designed for irrigation work. It's double coated, it's PVC lined, it's meant for direct burial. You can find wire that looks similar to this, speaker wire, telephone wire, but it's not meant for direct burial. So you need to make sure you're using irrigation wire to start with. Don't do repairs with other types of wires, just because not all wires are created equal. Then the next thing is, do you have the right wire nut? So wire nuts come in all different sizes and all different types of packing in them. What you don't want to use is any type of wire nut that isn't meant for direct burial, that isn't meant for a wet location. These wire nuts have no silicone fill in them. They're meant for using in a dry location, like inside your house, inside of a building. These wire nuts have a silicone filling in them, which allows or keeps the water from penetrating into the connection. Then this is a silicone filled tube where you can take wire nuts that don't have the silicone and you push them down into this tube, and that protects them from the moisture as well. So I'd like to show you how to do a splice with the wires here real quickly. And one of the things you got to remember when you're splicing the wire is to use the proper tools for doing your splicing. I use this particular pair of tools. They're kind of hard to find. It's a special wire cutter for communications wire. So it has a little notch in it that's built just for 18 gauge wire for stripping. If you use a wire stripper that's too small, you can cut the copper and then it'll be likely to break. Once you cut that into that copper, it creates a real weak space on it. So when you're stripping, you don't want to strip off too much wire or too much of the insulation, because if you do that, when it goes down into the wire nut, you have to have the insulation all the way up into the protective gel on the inside of it. So typically what we say, and I'll show a close-up of this in a minute, is that you want to make sure that the wire is no longer than about half of the length of the cap. So this is 18 gauge wire, which is typically used in most residential systems. And you got to make sure you have the right size wire nut. This particular wire nut here is for 18 to 22 gauge wire. So this wire nut is more for the range of 12 to 16 gauge. So if I tried using this large wire nut on here, it might not grip or bind the wire inside of it. So as I'm splicing, I strip a little bit of the wire off, or the insulation, as you can see here. And if you look at this wire nut, you can see there's ridges up here, then there's a smooth part. When I push this wire up in, I want the insulation of the wire, which same color as the wire nut, may not show up too well, up into the gel. Let me strip of this yellow wire here. I'm going to strip off about 1/2 inch of the wire. Now maybe you can see this a little bit better. So the wires, copper wires up in the wire nut, and the insulation is also up there. Big debate amongst people is, do you pre-twist your wire before you put it in the wire nut? Some people like to twist it up a little bit. If you read most manufacturers of wire nuts, they say do not pre-twist it. So the two wires, or the ends, are even with one another. The insulation is removed evenly. I put the wire into the wire nut, turn it clockwise so it starts twisting in place. You don't want to over twist the wire nut either, because if you twist it up too much, you can break the wire. Then what we like to do, just to test to make sure it's a good fit, just tug on it, make sure you can't pull the wires out. And if you can't pull the wires out, you've got a good solid connection. And if you look in the bottom, both of those wires, the insulation part is up in the gel. So there's not going to be any moisture getting to the copper and into the wire. And what happens when you get water on the copper is it starts building up corrosion, and eventually you lose the connection, and you can't get electricity to your valve to open it. So make sure you do good wire splices and use the right size wire nuts, right type and size of wire, and don't strip too much of the insulation off the copper. So if you ever run into any wiring issues or need any repairs, or if you're even trying it yourself and have questions, please give us a call and we'll do our best to help you either on the phone or coming out and fixing the problem for you.